My name is Skye Perry. I'm the CEO of SSP Innovations, a company that was founded in 2003 and that I took full-time in 2007. We're a company that delivers GIS, which is Geospatial Information Systems, work management and asset management strategy, technology, and implementation, all focused on the verticals of utilities, being electric, gas, and water, as well as the telecom industries. We're there to guide these customers around using what we call a geospatial strategy to really expand and transform their businesses by using the concept of spatial location tied into business analytics from end to end. Well, it starts early. As I grew up, my father was an entrepreneur, and he actually worked in the business that his grandfather started, Perry Steel Incorporated. Now that dates all the way back to Bethlehem Steel and many years after that. My grandfather worked there as well as all three of his sons. So I saw that growing up. I had that as a model and saw the life that being an entrepreneur provided for our family. With that said, I had the inkling to start my own lawn business when I was 12. And interestingly, my dad was not my first customer. He actually didn't think I'd stick with it. So I had a neighbor that hired me when I started the business. And after a few months, my dad finally hired me on. It's been kind of a joke in the family ever since. But I built that business from the age of 12 until I was 19, and when we left, I had a partner, we had 4 employees, we were doing a number of accounts. We actually sold that business, not for much, but it was really a good taste of being able to be self-employed and to be able to grow a business. And I attribute a lot of the sales skills that I've learned over the years to going door to door to sell lawn service. Now that's a very commoditized industry, of course, but as we look back, we weren't selling just the lawn business. My partner and I came up with the theme of young, motivated professional. We were selling the buyers on investing into the youth of the community, and that was really a pivot to think about what are we selling them? How do we want to communicate what this business does? I went to school and majored in business with a focus on computer science. And really, I always wanted to start another business, but I had no idea that I would be starting a business in exactly what my degree was focused on. I fell into this world of GIS and absolutely fell in love with it. I've worked in GIS and specifically utilities and telecom for my entire career. So as it fast forwarded, it was really through a series of life events. When I think back, I was working for a number of companies in my first many years of my career and learning what I liked and what I didn't like about how those companies were run. And then the opportunity came about where my mother actually passed away fairly suddenly over a period of months in 2005. And I had a traveling career all of my life, my professional career, and I was on the road constantly. But around that time, I had a much younger brother, and he needed to have some family surrounding him and to help with some of this grief, and he was 14 at the time. And we brought him out to live with us here in Colorado. And to do that, I needed to get off the road, stop my traveling for a bit. So truly one of my mentors in my growth as a leader, a man named Chip Scott, he actually allowed me to waive my non-compete and to take a single customer to begin SSP in 2007. Now, we both assumed, and we talked about it at the time, that I'd be gone for a year or two and probably come back to work with Chip again. But once I had begun work with that one customer, I had many other customers that I'd spent time with over the number of prior years who came and said, "We'd love to work with you too." And that was the beginning of SSP's growth. And honestly, we never slowed down from that point. So think about that. We started in the basement with one customer. It was just me and eventually a couple contractors that were supporting the business. And today we've grown that business to over 310 employees and 5 offices. We're headquartered here in Centennial, Colorado. We've expanded into international business. Now that's actually an exciting point for us because just in December we closed our 4th acquisition of a related business in our field, and that's a company called 3GIS. And they focused and really have expanded our exposure in the telecom area of our business. And I couldn't be more excited to welcome the 130 employees that have joined us of our 310 today from that group. And we're really set off to the races. We're hitting 2021 with a new thriving passion for where we're headed. We already have about 60 positions posted to hire this year, and we continue or expect to continue this expanded growth across the US, across the world, and really just bringing the value that we bring to each of our customers to many, many more customers as we take on the market by force. When we're talking about vision within SSP, I really define vision as 2 critical components. The first is people. And some folks are surprised by the answer, but I'd say a vision is 60% people and 40% strategy. Now, why do the people matter? Well, I'm in a people business, and the representatives of all of our employees are representing me, they're representing our brand, and it's so critically important that the people come first, both as our employees, our partners, and of course, our customers. So the people are very important. Now, as we took that, that doesn't necessarily make up everything. We do have to have a well-articulated strategy around the market. As I think back toward our overall strategy for the coming 5 years, one of the key bullets, one of our key goals is that we have to attract, train, and retain talent within the industry. We believe we're headed in the right direction. We're winning a lot of the critical projects that are coming to market. And to successfully deliver those, we need great people. So how do we go about that? Attract, train, and retain. The first comes with attract. Now, there is some level of quantity, but we also have a very rigorous recruiting and interviewing process. In fact, it's one of the favorite things that I consistently hear from people who come on with SSP is, oh my gosh, your recruiting process was so intense, but I felt like I got to know you and I know you got to know me. And I believe that's why we've been so successful with the people that we are bringing in. So with the number of people that we have to recruit, even this year, headed towards 60, and we hired 45 net new last year, to give you an example. We made the investment last year to bring a recruiter in-house. And he's been amazing. His sole job is to represent the company and bring techniques that he specializes in to go find those candidates. So whether it be LinkedIn, other job boards, posting and advertising in certain areas, which schools are we going to go recruit at? Because we do a lot of college hiring. And we end up hiring, probably 25% of the people that we interview. So it's not a very high number, but we hire the ones that we believe are the A players that will not only be here to work at SSP, but those that will come in to advance the company. The foundation is always that cultural aspect. They have to be a cultural fit, but we want to invest in those people and create true careers for them as opposed to just a job. The other recent focus for us is focusing on the topic of diversity. We realize it is so important to our company as we grow and expand to bring all people from different walks of life into SSP because those varied opinions, those varied backgrounds are critical to building the culture code that we know we need to expand into as we continue into the hundreds and hundreds of people. So a thriving culture, what does that mean at SSP? Well, as I break that down, culture has continued to change and evolve over the years. When we were a 5-person, 10-person, 15-person company, culture just existed. It was turning around in your chair and talking to the person next to you. But once you hit 50, then 100, 200, 300 people, that culture has to evolve with the company. So it is a big and critical focus of what I and many of my other leaders focus on each and every year as the business changes and as it continues to expand. For us, the thriving culture that we have put in place begins with our core values. We've had the same core values since I went full-time with the business back in 2007. They haven't changed, but the way that we've realized and embodied those core values has. So just as recent as last year, we took the opportunity to define our culture code. And what does that mean? It means taking the core values, defining the actions that we expect, the actions that we do not expect as well from our employees. What does that mean and what are the behaviors and how do we expect you to respect and engage with those core values? But then we took it a level further because we understood that culture really thrives in a group of maybe 40 to 50 people. And now many of our departments are even larger than that critical capacity of people within a given group. So it was about ensuring that the departments could take that core nucleus, those core values, but then have been able to develop their own culture code that are specific to how they operate. A team of developers, as an example, might utilize a different approach from folks that are doing more of the geospatial data entry. They just operate differently. So by allowing them to have the creativity as well as the input as to how to take the core values, we're the same at the center, but we may all act in different ways. My challenge has always been to each employee group of the culture committees, create the culture that you want to be part of. So the biggest challenge that we have faced in this time of COVID, of the coronavirus hitting our business, really does come down to our culture. Now, first and foremost, let me say that we are absolutely blessed in the type of work that we do and the fact that we are a technology company. We were able to pivot completely to work at home. We didn't have to lay off a single person, and we were able to have a great year through the entire 2020. But that doesn't change the challenges that COVID put upon us on the cultural side. Now, if you think about the type of work that we all do, we all come and provide some commodity, we do some job. But I like to believe that SSP provides careers, and the careers are really based on having a cultural connectedness to your peers, to your coworkers, to your managers. And a lot of that had come down to this face-to-face interaction that we've had for all of our years in the past. So pivoting to work from home, we did great, but we were suddenly disconnected. We weren't seeing each other. We had Zoom fatigue, and we still have that in many ways, many days. It hits many of us hard. So what have we had to do? Well, we had to reinvent the way that we were connecting remotely, and we had to first identify that this truly is an issue. Now, foundationally, when you lose that cultural connectedness, call that maybe our special sauce. It to some extent commoditizes the individual roles that our people provide in the company. Meaning, if I'm a developer, if I'm a programmer, if I'm programming at SSP and I love my coworkers, I love the office space, I love the connectedness I have every day, that's special. But if I'm working from home and I'm just programming 8 or 10 hours a day, I just type out code, without that cultural connectedness, well, what's to provide or to stop a competitor from coming along and maybe offering 10% more than I'm paying that developer? And that has happened. That's happened quite a lot during this period. And interestingly, during the time of COVID, the war for talent in my industry has gone through the roof. So to combat that, we had to first identify that problem of cultural connectedness. We then had to really use our approach to having departmental culture committees to say, how can we connect? We know it's not going to be perfect, but we have to try. And just the act of trying mattered so much to so many of our employees, but honestly, by not trying to tell them from the top down, here's what we're going to do, but asking, what can we do? That changed the entire perception. And they were extremely creative, and we've done all types of things from our regular Friday, as we call it, quarantine, which is a sharing thing we do on Slack, where we have a topic put out every Friday, and everybody volunteers a picture or a story or something. What does that do? Well, you're just learning about your coworkers. And we spawned off so many other important connected conversations just from having shared those stories. It comes from online game playing. It comes from sharing perhaps the happy hour, though I almost think the online happy hours are overdone, but something that's more facilitated within the individual groups. Well, we've seen this time and time again, and probably one of my favorite stories was from our Milwaukee office. And their culture committee actually made a goal of having the individuals on the committee, probably 5 people, reach out individually to every single person within the department, which is closer to 45. And I can't tell you how many positive comments I got back from the individuals saying, I was called, they checked in, they just wanted to have a conversation to see how I was doing, completely independent of my role within the company. That is how we counteracted COVID. And those things, I believe, will remain long beyond when COVID leaves our business and our world. And those are foundationally components of what our culture code will be going forward. It's all about establishing that importance, that foundation, all around our core values, and we can do that now remotely. Though, I must say, I'm extremely excited to get back face-to-face with all of my employees. The best piece of business advice I've ever received can be summed up in a very simple phrase: don't give up. Now, every entrepreneur who has started a business, started it in their basement, or even somewhere larger, or with investment even, you know there are hard times. To take a business from a small, maybe single person, a small group, and to build that into 50, 100 people and think about the revenue, these businesses that we all talk about all the time. The key thing that you will find if you ask every entrepreneur about how they got there, if they're really honest, is that they did not give up.